Thanks for joining me here today as we take an inside look at the athletics programs here at Stevens College. I'm Adam Sampson, and I'm joined today by five of our fantastic coaches. Before I get down to business, to ask the hard question, let's first introduce our coaches for today's roundtable discussion. To my immediate left, we have head soccer coach Xander Kennedy. Next, we have head softball coach Tracy Dean. And to her left, we have head volleyball coach Rose Obunaga, followed by head cross country coach Travis Cook. And at the end there, we have head basketball coach Chris Duncan. Later in the show, we'll hear from NAIA Champions of Character representative Tony Coleman, who will talk about a prestigious honor that the Stevens College Athletics Department received last month for the fourth year in a row. And with that little nugget out of the way, let's begin with the questions. I want to start with one about the student athletes. Obviously, when recruiting, you have to fill needs at certain positions, but what are some of the key characteristics that you try to identify when searching for young women that fit the mold of a Stevens College student athlete? Xander, how about you start us off with this one?
Certainly. There is, in a way, an inherent challenge in working with athletics at an institution like Stevens because we are almost, in a way, a niche school when it comes to our academics. And so, to a degree, you certainly have to look for a student that is interested in something that we offer academically because we really do put an emphasis on the academic side of things too. But athletically, I think it may be a little bit different for each of us, but for soccer in particular, we're still very much a developing team. We have just completed our second year in existence, and so my priority, I go out and I look for students and athletes that I think can help grow the team, help grow the program competitively, who have a legitimate background with the sport and really have that soccer IQ, that understanding, have played the game long enough that we won't have to spend too much time on the fundamentals, on positioning. We can really go straight towards more in-depth coaching.
Okay. And like Xander, Tracy, you also work in the admissions department. Can you kind of describe how that helps out in terms of helping recruit, like in your recruiting process?
Definitely. It makes it a lot easier to get a hold of students and work with them not only on the admission side but with athletics. It's definitely an easy recruiting tool. It's a great icebreaker for getting to know your student, especially when we get more of a shy student coming onto campus. If you can talk and have something that you have in common, it makes the conversation a lot easier to kind of get into. But in terms of recruiting for the softball program, because there are so many different positions, and I definitely look for a versatile player that can play multiple positions or has kind of the I can attitude, and it makes it a lot easier to kind of play players anywhere. Again, we're building our program as well, and we're looking for players that not only work hard but have a great attitude. It makes it a lot easier to work with.
All right. And if you want to follow that up, Rose?
Yeah, just as Coach Tracy mentioned, I always look for players who can also play two or more positions on the volleyball court. And since the best tool to use while recruiting is to go watch some of them play during different tournaments, the basic things I normally look for is if the players are talented enough, skilled enough, and also if they are really good communicators on the court, because volleyball is a really fast-paced game, and if they're not really good communicators, it's a big problem. So those are the few things I normally look for while I'm recruiting.
All right. And Travis, you have a little bit different as cross country is more of an individual sport per se. So kind of go into the recruiting aspect of for your cross country student athletes.
Yeah, like with cross country, there's not different positions. You're going out and you're running. So basically, what I look for is just what's some of their PRs, what's some of their best times that they've run in high school, and use that kind of as an indication, and where they've come to up to that point, and then see, okay, well, and then in talking with them, trying to determine whether or not it's someone that would be open to coaching, because if it's someone that's just going to shut down coaching, chances are it's not really going to be able to help them, get to where they're wanting to get in cross country. But that's kind of what I look at, just see where they're at that time, and just see if they fit with what we already have on the team, if it's a good fit.
Okay. And finish it off, Chris.
Well, with recruiting with basketball, when we start out recruiting kids, first thing we look at is we look at how good the kid's going to help us on the court, how well of a skilled player they are, and then we start looking at their GPAs, and we start looking at what they're wanting to study in school. And with Stevens, we have a wide variety of degrees, but some are not tailored towards athletics, and we have to find kids that are tailored more towards Stevens. We've got one of the best education departments, and a lot of student athletes love education. So I try to find kids that are interested in education, simply because of our on-campus school that we have. And then also the biology. We have a lot of kids that are in biology. So I look for kids that look at those type of degrees when I'm looking at athletes. But first and foremost, I look at their athletic ability. We're looking to build a team. We're in one of the best conferences in the NAI, the American Midwest. We've gained two very good teams this year with Freed Hardeman and Mid-Continent. And along with that, we have 4 top 25 teams in our conference. So every year when I go out to recruit, I look for kids that are going to help me compete at a higher level and to compete against these top 25 teams. We have to be, ready to play. And we have some really good recruits that's committed to us for next year, and we're working hard to get more.
Alrighty. While we're on the topic, if we can kind of dive into another question on the recruiting process. What are some of the selling points? And you guys may have touched on this already. But what are some of the selling points of Stevens College and your program that you bring up when speaking with prospective student athletes and their families? And we'll go down the line on this one as well.
Well, like you mentioned, Tracy and I also work in the admissions office, and so to a degree, attracting a student to Stevens, attracting an athlete to Stevens is a very similar process personally, and so it's really, I've become very comfortable, very aware of the many laudable aspects of our institution. The average class size being 12 students campus-wide, the student-to-faculty ratio, the really student-centered, student-oriented policies that we have campus-wide, not to mention, some very highly regarded departments, majors, areas of study. And I think that, relating it back to soccer, thus far, I don't know that we've attracted a lot of kind of top flight, all-state caliber athletes to the soccer team, and specifically, I hope we get there in the relatively near future. I think we will as we continue to develop competitively, but it is a good destination for a student athlete who is interested in being very committed to her studies, but was a solid competitor in high school and has that interest in continuing with the sport at the college level.
Okay.
Again, kind of off of what Xander said, it's really, really easy to just look to recruit to get numbers and, trying to find that best athlete. But it's difficult, especially in women's sports, for them to continue on to play professionally. There is no, at least in the softball world, there's no real continuing on. You can play professionally and not get paid very much, or play overseas and again not get paid very much. So I try and really instill in my girls that they're here to get their education, because that degree is what helps them further themselves, and not just playing the sport.
Yeah, the number one thing I emphasize is about the academics. Here at Stevens College, we value the students first before the athletic comes in. So I normally assure them they're going to get good education, and that's through having a one-on-one attention from the instructors and being a small campus, they have that chance of seeking all the help they need with their academics. And in addition to that, our PET program attracts a lot of students to come here. So immediately you mention about it, and just the feeling that they'll be able to bring their pet here, it gives them upper hand as compared to other schools who don't have programs like that one. And I know theater also has attracted most of my recruits, but the only problem is they definitely don't have enough time to combine both theater and athletics, so it makes them decide to choose one from the two. But I think those are the top attractions that I use when I'm trying to get my recruits.
One of the things I usually start with is talking about like the class size, how it's small, and you get that one-on-one attention with your professor, your instructor, and I really sell how important that is, because I explain. Later on you're going to want like letters of recommendation, and if you've built that one-on-one connection with your instructor, it's a lot easier to get a more meaningful letter from that individual. And so I really sell that because, I went to a large school, and so I know how difficult it can be to get to know instructors, and to have these smaller class sizes is a real plus, especially when you're trying to look into moving on in the world, in a career, because with running, you could do it professionally. You're not, like what Tracy was saying, you're not going to make a lot of money. And so, I try to push on the academic side, and, getting to run cross country is just an added bonus to that.
Well, when recruiting here at Stevens, I push family. This campus is a family. It's a small campus. Everybody knows everybody. One of the biggest fears is it's an all-women's college, and so when you're recruiting young ladies to come to school here, you also have to tell them, hey, we're in a college town, and you sell our college town. I believe that, selling those things, you can attract college athletes here. The academic side is very big on basketball. Last year, we had an average GPA of 3.75. We had some really great athletes last year, on top of just scholar athletes, and it goes across the board with all athletics here. We all have really good students, and when recruiting kids, you look at GPAs because we always focus on that, because it also helps with their the scholarship money. If they have a high GPA, it helps us with getting more money for scholarships. It doesn't take out of our athletic scholarships as much. So when you are recruiting, and when I am recruiting, I actually look that way, and then I push our classes on kids. I tell them about our sizes, and also tell them that, hey, you're going to be in a class with 15, 20 kids, and you're going to know everybody in there. You're going to know your professor. It's going to be like having another mother or a father here on campus, because they're going to be looking out for you and making sure you're in class.
All right. I'd like to switch gears a little bit and talk about the NAIA's highly regarded Champions of Character program, which we'll talk to Tony Coleman here a little bit later on that. As an NAIA institution, we promote the 5 core values of integrity, respect, responsibility, sportsmanship, and servant leadership. If each of you could speak just briefly on the importance of character-driven athletics and how your respective team has carried out those core values, whether it's in competition or in practice or even in the community.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that makes coaching in the NAIA so satisfying, and particularly at a school that takes those core values as seriously as we do. In fact, in our first year in existence as a soccer team, Stevens College Soccer was recognized as the conference recipient of the Fair Play Sportsmanship Award, and I think we may be in line to get that in year 2 as well. And I think that's just an illustration of the fact that we play the sport the right way, and that we live our lives the right way. I've got such a wonderful group of 18 young women who are out there competing hard, but competing smart, and being ambassadors, being positive ambassadors of this beautiful game. And then they step off the pitch and whether it's volunteering in the community, or I mean, I was literally just an hour ago talking to one of my athletes who's organizing a clothing drive for over the holidays to help clothe needy families, and that's not something that I brought up to her. That was of her own initiative, and yet that is what what we are all about here.
First and foremost, I try and take some pride in showing my girls that I'm a young female coach and I'm living my dream, and I feel like I have a pretty good work ethic, and I really try to show them that they can live their dream and work hard. And when it comes to our games in the season, at the end of the day, whether we won 50 games and lost none, or we're 0-50, I want them to know that and have that pride in their heart that they worked hard, they were they worked hard and had respect for not only the game, the officials, everybody that's involved in the sport. So, that's something that I try and instill in them every day when we work hard in practice, and keep that respect towards the game.
I think with my group, we've worked a lot on responsibility and sportsmanship because as a team sport, it depends with what kind of talent you have. You may have so good talent, or sometimes you may not have so good talent, but I try to instill in my players the reasoning that everybody plays a role on the court, whether you are the major one or the lesser one. At least each and every person's contribution builds the team, and it really doesn't matter what kind of contribution they brought in, so long as it's a contribution that is going to gear towards the success of the team. Works really well, and just having teamwork and the sportsmanship in them also helps a lot. We've gone to schools where you have to pray after the games and holding hands with the opponents after you just lost with them, and I mean, like, if they don't have that sportsmanship, they're not going to be able to do stuff like that. So it's just for them to learn to have good character all the time, and also build themselves as young women, because immediately after this school they're going to be responsible mothers somewhere else. They may be coaches somewhere else, or even a teacher. So this is something they learn from the beginning, and when they leave Stevens College, they'll still remember about what they learned through the Champions of Character.
I guess with me, like, it starts with just kind of modeling the things that you're looking to see in your athletes, and then with that, and when you catch them doing something right, celebrate it, be excited about it, like, hey, that's great that you're doing that. That way it really sends that positive message home, so they're associating, hey, this is something that's great and I'm getting praised for it, so I'm going to keep doing it. And it kind of feeds off itself, and it really spreads throughout the team. And my girls are very active in the community, very active in different organizations, and so I mean they're just setting a good example, and it's been really wonderful to have the girls that I have.
Well, with our team this year, it's been real easy to, teach no matter what the score is, no matter, win or lose, always, be respectful to the game, respectful to your opponents. And my kids, we've been hit with the numbers issue this year, and we don't have big numbers, and so we've been playing a bunch of teams that are a lot more talented than us, and it's really hard on our girls to go out and not be as successful as they have been in the past, play at a higher level. But they've learned how to accept and not be mad. It's as long as we're doing something good on the court and off the court. On top of that, they realize that it's just a game. But what they do after this and what they do right now will carry over into their jobs. And I've got some great kids that volunteer a lot of places. We do the MU football games and stuff. We volunteer there. We've went to we've done the Ronald McDonald House charity stuff, and the kids never ever complain about doing anything. They always volunteer to do it, and it's that's something about Stevens that's really amazing. Kids step up here, and you don't have to ask them to step up; they just do it.
Alrighty. we'll kind of wrap the questions up with you guys. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. We will speak with Tony Coleman, the NAIA Champions of Character representative for Stevens College here in a few minutes. And welcome back. We're joined here now by Tony Coleman, the NAIA Champions of Character representative for Stevens College. Just wanted to have him join us today just to talk a little bit about the program itself, the Champions of Character program, and how it directly relates to our Stevens athletics programs. So to start off, in October, the NAIA announced its 5-star institutions for the 2012-13 academic year, and Stevens was once again they once again made that list. That's now 4 years in a row for the athletics program. How does this particular award reflect the caliber of student athletes here at Stevens College?
Well, one of the things, first of all, about the award is that every year that we're able to capture that award from the NAIA, it speaks volumes of the work that our athletic department does the previous year, throughout the year, with the programs that we do, the things that we instill into our student athletes. That's the reward, if you will, for all of the things that we put in, character-driven activities that we put in throughout the year.
Okay. And can you, just kind of off the top of your head, can you kind of talk about some of those key activities that gave that
Sure.
score for us this last year?
Sure. Each August we fill out simply what you said, a scorecard based on the activities that we did the previous school year. And as a part of that, things that they look at are based on the 5 core values, the areas that have to do with servant leadership, with sportsmanship, those kinds of things. You're awarded points. Say, for example, in the sportsmanship category, because we don't have any ejections, whether that be players or coaches, throughout the season in any of our sports. The servant leadership, the going out into the community. One of the things that we like to say is that we prepare our students from the side to go from the sidelines to the sidewalks, if you will, in life, and they go out into the community and they do these programs for youth. They do these camps. They help out on campus, and freshman move-in day. Some of those things that may not, to the average person seem significant, but they really are to these student athletes and the things that those types of activities are able to build.
Okay, and you kind of touched on it. The flagship Champions of Character program that the NAIA promotes, it promotes those 4 or 5 core values. Can you talk about the importance of these core values and how it has led to a positive environment for all 7 of our sports here at Stevens?
Absolutely, and I tell you, I was very proud to hear the coaches when they spoke of that. Of the 5 core values and how each one of them incorporates it into their sports, because that's really where it begins. You need the coaches to buy into that character-driven coaching, if you will, and to be able to get these traits across to their student athletes and get them to buy into them as well. And they speak for themselves. One thing that I would mention, when you look at the 5 core values of the Champions of Character, here at Stevens, we base our belief in the young women that come to our institution on what we refer to as the 10 ideals. Well, those 5 core values of the Champions of Character really mirror 5 of those 10 ideals that we're already looking for in the young women that we recruit to come here to Stevens.
Awesome. Now, you've been the coordinator for Champions of Character since the 2009-2010 school year. That's almost 5 years to evaluate how the program has specifically benefited the star student athletes. Talk a little bit about the growth you've seen in that time.
Sure. And again, we try each year Like this year, for example, we're starting a campaign through the NAIA that's a branch off of the Champions of Character called Live 5. And that shows you how the program itself is developing. And again, we want our coaches to incorporate these 5 values into their everyday coaching. And we have seen that, and we've seen good results out of it. I mean, when you look at what the core values are themselves, I mean, respect, responsibility, sportsmanship, those types of things do nothing but strengthen a young woman and hopefully lead them to be good leaders outside of Stevens when they're done with their academic and their athletic experience here at Stevens.
Awesome. And to kind of wrap things up, aside from athletics director Deb Duran, you're one of the longer tenured athletics staff, especially the 5 coaches that joined us. All 5 of them are either in their first or their second year coaching. In your opinion, what sets Stevens apart from other institutions, regardless of the level, NCAA, D1 to NAIA?
And I think that, again, some of the coaches touched on it briefly, and it's the environment here at Stevens. And so many of the students that come here, again, you know, they may want to continue their athletic endeavors from high school, from their travel club ball, you know, teams, and just have the chance to play at the collegiate level and be looking for that institution that's the right fit. And we're the right fit for a lot of young women that want to do that. The small size of our campus, the small size of our classrooms that you heard mentioned earlier, there's just a feeling when you come to campus that you don't get, you know, at some other places. And I think that's really what sets us apart. I mean, so many of our students in general, but especially our student athletes, if we can find the right academic programs to fit them, then, I mean, they're here. I mean, this is where they want to get their education. This is where they want to continue playing their particular sport at the collegiate level. So those are a couple of the things, and the environment, our coaches. You heard from each of them. I mean, we're really looking for the right fits for our programs. A lot of effort has gone into that. That's why there's been some transitions over the last couple of years with the building process. So we're trying to find that niche that suits, you know, a lot of the young women that come here to Stevens.
All right, I want to thank you again for joining me today, and to all our viewers, I want to thank you for your time. That's all we have for today. Be sure to check us out at stevens.edu/athletics, on Facebook at facebook.com/Stevens College Athletics, or on Twitter via the @Stevens_sports handle. Last but certainly not least, go Stars.